Hello again, my friends. I always record these late. The lights are off, the city hums below the window, and it feels like time slows down just enough to listen. Tonight's one of those nights. I've been thinking about choices, how one decision can create 1,000 different lives, and how maybe we can still feel them, all those other versions of ourselves, just under the surface. This is Z.N. Cruz, and this episode is called The Paradox of the Parallels. There are nights I lie awake thinking about the versions of me that never made it this far. The one who stayed. The one who walked away sooner. The one who never believed she could write. I like to imagine they still exist somewhere, quiet, watching, hoping I'll do something they couldn't, that I couldn't. Maybe that's what life really is, a memory from another self, whispering through the cracks into a new reality. Sometimes I wonder if they're proud of me, or if they're still waiting for me to turn back. Maybe they're the reason I wake up with a heaviness I can't quite explain, the reason a certain song can break me open, even when I haven't heard it in years, because it belonged to a version of me who never got to move past that moment. We make thousands of tiny choices every day, but some of them change the shape of forever. A word said too softly, a hand not taken, a dream dismissed as unrealistic. Each one shifts the line just enough to create another life, another self. I think each choice opens a door we don't see, a quantum breath, and behind every door, another version of us keeps walking. Sometimes I picture them like stars, millions of small lives burning quietly across the dark, each one holding a truth I never learned. Or as one of my favourite films says, a truth we chose to forget. And maybe that's what makes being human so heavy. We don't just carry our own life, we carry the echo of every life we didn't live, every almost love, every road that kept going after we stopped walking. Physics calls it branching universes. I call it heartbreak that learned how to multiply infinitely. Every decision divides us, just a little. The moment you say yes instead of no, a new world unfolds. And somewhere, a quiet version of you wonders what would have happened if you turned the other way. Sometimes I imagine it in slow motion. The tiniest tilt of your head, the fraction of a breath before the word forms, and how that single second decides everything that follows. It's strange how something so small can echo so endlessly. One version of you keeps walking down the familiar road, the other drifts toward the unknown. Neither is wrong, they just begin to dream different dreams, build different memories, love different people. And yet, I think they still carry the same pulse, the same heartbeat beneath all the noise of time. Maybe that's why, years later, we sometimes feel an ache we can't explain, because a part of us is still standing at that intersection, watching the other version disappear into the horizon. Sometimes I think about her, that other me, standing at the same crossroads, choosing differently. Maybe she's happier, maybe she's not. But I like to think she still looks up at the same sky, still hums the same Duran Duran songs under her breath, still wonders if she made the right choice. I don't think those other selves are strangers. I think they're pieces of the same soul, stretching across time, each one trying to understand the same lesson from a different angle. Maybe that's why we feel the way we do in our everyday lives. Helpless, haunted, out of control. Because somewhere, one of them already lived this moment, and the memory rippled forward, reaching us as a whisper we can't quite place. Sometimes, when life feels too heavy to bear, I remind myself, maybe another me found peace today. Maybe she's sitting somewhere quiet, finally breathing again, no longer haunted by what-ifs, wondering if Come Undone will finally be about her. And if time is truly connected, if love and grief and memory can cross between those thin places, then maybe, just maybe, I can feel her peace through the fracture. And maybe she can feel mine. Grief has always been the loudest of my parallel selves. She doesn't whisper. She tries to rewrite reality. When I began to write, I didn't realize grief was the one holding the pen. She built a world where she could speak in someone else's voice, someone strong enough to face what I couldn't or wouldn't. That's how Zeph was born. Zeph isn't me in a literal sense. She's what my grief became when I finally gave it permission to exist. Through her, I learned that sorrow can have structure and loss can have language. But grief doesn't just create, it lingers, it edits. It takes the things we loved most and writes them in invisible ink, so we spend years trying to remember what they said. For a long time, I thought grief was something to overcome, a mountain to climb, a phase to finish. But I've learned it's more like a shadow, not a sign of darkness, but proof that there's still light nearby, even though we can hardly ever see it. Every fracture Zeph walks through is just another way of asking the same question I keep asking myself. What do we become after the worst has already happened? How do we carry on? Maybe we don't carry on at all. Maybe we just carry through. Maybe grief walks beside us, quietly shaping the story we're still learning how to tell. Through the dialogue lines we still haven't quite memorized. And maybe that's what healing really is. Not the absence of pain, but the transformation of it. There's something sacred in that transformation, the way pain becomes art and art becomes memory. The way we leave pieces of ourselves inside the stories that saved us. Sometimes I think Zeph isn't just a character at all. She's a monument to everything I loved, everything I lost, and everything I'm still trying to forgive. The day I stopped trying to silence Zeph, I realized grief had never been my enemy. She was the map, the ink, the proof that something once mattered enough to lose. I like to believe that across all the versions of us, something constant survives. Not the choices, not the circumstances, just the core of who we are, trying again. Maybe every time we forgive, the other selves feel it. Maybe every time we love again, it ripples outward, mending a version of us we'll never meet. Grief taught me that time isn't linear, it's layered. Healing doesn't erase the past, it reaches back and holds its hand. And sometimes, I think the past reaches back too, gently, like an old friend brushing your shoulder to say, I remember you, and it's okay to move on from me. We spend so much of our lives searching for closure, but maybe what we really need is connection, to know that even the broken versions of us are still part of something whole. So wherever you are, in this life or one next door, if you've ever felt the weight of who you might have been, the sting of almost, or the quiet ache of becoming, know this: you're not alone in the fracture. Because even in our quietest moments, we are still connected, threaded through time by memory, by love, by the soft and stubborn hope that we still matter somewhere. Because in that beautiful somewhere, another you is standing in the same light, lifting her head, breathing in the same air, and finally realizing she made it. And maybe that realization, that quiet, wordless gratitude, is what binds every version of us together. And maybe right now, as you're hearing this, another version of me is speaking too. The one who never found the words until tonight. Maybe that's how healing really works. Not in grand moments of revelation, but in these small exchanges across time, where we finally recognize ourselves in someone else's voice, And at the end of yet another day here in this reality, we all finally exhaled at once. Please check out your favourite bookstores worldwide for my book, The Zepherous Chronicles Rebirth. The second book, Cantera, is coming soon. This is Z and Cruz, reminding you to stay close to the echo. Bye for now.